Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, December the 5th. Well, it's the last Grade 1 stakes race in New York in 2020. Let's throw up the field for race number 10, the prestigious Cigar Mile Handicap. $250,000 is the purse. You can download free formulator past performances for this race. Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Maybe not the strongest Cigar Mile field we've seen, Mike. And another wrinkle might be the weather. We're expecting some wet weather in New York this weekend.
Yeah, the weather could have a big say in the outcome. You're right. It's not the strongest Cigar Mile field in the world, but there are at least a couple of interesting horses in here. In particular, the one performer and perhaps the 3-year-old King Guillermo, because they're both trying to salvage something here. It looks like they both have talent. They're trying to salvage something here in 2020.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. It seems the True Timber runs in this race every year, and he actually outperforms his odds. He was third in this race behind Maximum Security and Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner Spun to Run. The year before that, he was second behind Pattern Recognition. He's expected to make the lead on the pace projector. Boy, he's going to have to wrest that away from Mr. Buff's hooves.
Yeah, I guess he could make the lead. I don't know. I sort of felt like you would see the 3-year-old King Guillermo try and show speed in here. And I do think Mr. Buff, I don't know, Mr. Buff's not exactly a blazer, Dan, but he does want to be forward.
Performer's really the key to this race. He's won 5 in a row. It's just a shame that he's had to battle injury throughout his career, and especially this year, because after he won the Discovery last year, I was really looking forward to see what he could do at 4. He was going to run in the Carter. He came down with an injury, and he returned off a long layoff in this race at Belmont, his one and only prep for the Cigar Mile. And boy, it doesn't get any easier than this. Slipped through along the inside, entering the turn under Joel Rosario, wins under hands and heels urging, respectable buyer speed figure of 98, tactical speed, loves Aqueduct, handles a wet track, lots to like.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a horse to beat in here. Even, it seems maybe a little weird to say that he only has a grade 3 win to his credit as he steps into the Cigar Mile here. But again, it's not the strongest field in the world. And it's always felt like he was headed for races like this, Dan. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't work out for him this year as a 4-year-old. I think you're not the only one who was waiting to see what he would do after that Discovery. And he just couldn't stay on the racetrack. But he did come back with that easy win last time. He has not landed in a tough spot here. It just looks like, in a lot of ways, he might just be better than these horses.
Are you concerned that, again, he only has that one race as a prep? It was over a muddy track. He really didn't seem to do a lot of hard running in that race. He won like it was a workout. Is he tight enough for a race like this?
I mean, I'll trust Shug McGahee in that regard. I don't know, Dan. You always worry about horses who have trouble staying on the racetrack, but this horse has a ton of talent. He's not supposed to be compromised by the pace of this race. And it feels like this is a good spot for him to salvage something here from 2020.
Mind Control, you could argue, might have gone a little bit off form in the summer and into the fall. Maybe getting back to Aqueduct. He loves it here. He's 4 for 5 here. Wins in the Jerome, the Bayshore, the Toboggan, the Tom Fool. Now, maybe a mile's a little far for this horse, but he's handled it without any issues in the past. Last time out in the Lafayette, he just didn't fire, and that's not him.
Yeah, it was strange. I mean, that was an oddly run race, though. A bunch of horses, lost their riders in there. I don't know. He didn't fire in that race. His race 2 back, I thought, was also a little disappointing, Dan. I know Share the Ride's an informed horse right now and wired that field. And this horse did lose a little position on the backstretch, but man, it just feels like he didn't run his best race there. Now you're talking about really 3 races in a row where this horse has shown up with less than his best.
Snapper Sinclair has banked over $1 million in his career. He's been solid on turf, solid on dirt. I've never thought of him as a grade 1 type horse. The last time he ran on dirt was in the Blame Stakes, and he actually finished ahead of Global Campaign in that spot. And we know what Global Campaign came back to do. He won a graded race at Monmouth, won the grade 1 at Saratoga, 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic. A little concerned about him from a class standpoint. I think he'll get some pace to run at.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about him from a class standpoint, too. We'll see. I think he can get the right trip in this race. I don't think he's necessarily a horse that you look at and feel like he's, a one-run closer. He's not exactly a speed either, but I wouldn't worry about the trip in here. Is he really a grade 1 horse? Probably not, but this isn't really a grade 1 field either. In a race that, in my opinion, lacks interesting long shots, he's a pretty interesting long shot.
Firenze Fire, the number 4, has banked over $2 million in his career. And while he has won over a wet track at Aqueduct, the Muddy Jerome back in 2018, his last 3 wet track races have been lousy. And Kelly Breen has made some noise that if it comes up sloppy, he's probably going to scratch Firenze Fire. A shame, because he always has a chance in these kind of races, Michael. Go back to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and boy, he fell far behind early in this race. He's down towards the inside. He picks up some horses late to finish 3rd. He's in form right now.
He is. Surprising to see him that far back in the Breeders' Cup last time, Dan, because he's not a slow horse. He ran, all in all, thought he ran fine. Got in a little bit tight coming to the 8th pole, but got through it. Just missed getting up for 2nd in there. Thought he ran okay. It's just, to me, it's sort of admirable, what he's done throughout his career. And then, what he's done this year since he left the Jason Service Barn, because it felt like that could really work against him. But you know what? He's run fine when he's been able to get on a fast track. The weather feels like it's not going to work to his advantage here. And personally, I wouldn't blame Kelly Breen if he scratched him based on his forego and his Carter.
Mr. Buff, the number 5, the scourge of the New York bred handicap division. When they step him up into graded stakes company, he seems to kind of punch. You drop him in against New York breds, no problem. Let's watch the Empire Classic last time out. First race off a 2.5-month layoff, controlled the issue, keeps right on going. The 4th place horse is a really nice horse that came back to win one of the Stallion Series races with a 96 buyer. We know Mr. Buff has the figs to win a race like this. He just hasn't done it in graded company in the past. He's probably a little better at going a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, that Empire Classic we just watched, he was back in the right kind of spot over the distance that he really likes. I mean, he did what he, tends to do against New York breds. It's just really, really hard to take in races like this, Dan, even if this isn't a true grade 1 field. I mean, they've run him in 5 grade 1 or 2 races over the last year or so. I want to say he's faced a total of 39 horses in those races, and he's beaten exactly 3 of them home. He's just not competitive with these horses.
King Guillermo is a fascinating horse. This is a 3-year-old that hasn't run since the first Saturday in May, not in the Kentucky Derby, 2020 after all, but in one of the divisions of the Arkansas Derby. Let's watch this race. And this race proved that this horse, King Guillermo, is legit. Because I think a lot of people were questioning the Tampa Bay Derby. I mean, he's 50-1 in that race. He wins it up close to the pace with a big number. Where'd that race come from? The Arkansas Derby was okay. Nadal was really sharp. King Guillermo kept trying all the way down to the wire. Finished ahead of a couple of next out winners. Now, the layoff is a big concern as he faces older horses for the first time. They wanted to run him fresh in the Derby. And he got sick. He missed the Derby. Here he is against elders.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really worked for this horse. We talked about, Performer missing all the races he was pointing to. At least Performer got 1 prep race, and this horse has nothing since that Arkansas Derby. And personally, I thought he ran great in that race. I like this Tampa Bay Derby as well. I really don't know what we're going to get from him here, Dan, but he feels like a real wild card to me in here. He's got speed. I feel like he does have talent. He's an interesting horse in this race.
They're doing a rain dance for Majestic Dunhill. He finally broke a long losing streak in the Bold Ruler Handicap 2 starts back at Belmont, a race where Joe Rosario really gave him a nice ride. He got this horse covered up. You really don't want it. You have to time it just right with Majestic Dunhill because he finds ways to lose. He found a way to win thanks, I think, to the ride by Rosario. He didn't run very well in the fall high weight. They're wheeling him back in less than a week, and they'll take him back and make one run.
I mean, we'll see what happens. It's interesting because in his races 2 and 3 back, it felt like he found tactical speed out of nowhere, and it really worked for him because prior to that, he was a 1-run closer. He took advantage of a very slow pace in a 4-horse field to win that Bold Ruler 2 starts back. I'll give him a little bit of an excuse last time, Danny. It looked like when you watched the hand, he was just a little unprepared for the start, and he missed it, and then he just never got involved after that. But he looks like he's in pretty tough here.
And True Timber, this is kind of his race. He doesn't win races. I mean, the last time he won a race was back in September of 2018, and he's never really struck me as a grade 1 horse. He seems to run well in the Cigar Mile, and his last race, the Lafayette, a race that you mentioned, had a spill, had a fast pace. He kind of ran well for second. The winner shot right up the rail, and he had to come wide. He's in good form right now, and if you just want to say, listen, he seems to show up in the Cigar Mile every year, maybe you can sneak him into the number at a price.
Yeah, I can see using him that way. I really didn't want to take him on top in this race. I just personally don't think he's good enough, but he's got a race or 2 on the go back that would give him a chance.
And Bone Raison was 10-1 when he beat Manny Watt, who starts back. So the Breeders' Cup Sprint was probably an ill-advised try. Not surprisingly, he really didn't fire there. This is a nice optional claiming, maybe listed stakes type of horse who's really up against it in a grade 1.
Yeah, he's actually very underrated, and he's pulled off an upset or 2, but he's not really a graded stakes horse.
Picks time for the grade 1 Cigar Mile Handicap. I'm a little concerned about Performer's lack of racing in 2020, whether he'll truly be fit enough to take down a field like this. Boy, he's looked so good in his races. I'm hoping he gets through this, and I'm hoping we get a 5-year-old campaign out of him.
Me too. I do think it's fair to be concerned about him, Dan, just because of that lack of racing, especially at a very short price, which it feels like he's going to be. I just feel like he's found a really good spot here. I'm intrigued by King Guillermo, the 3-year-old. I don't know what you're going to get off the layoff, but he just felt like the only wild card to me.
And I have a feeling he's going to run fresh. He's been training pretty well leading up to this race. I'm going 1-6-8-4. Mike's going 1-6-4-8. It's the Grade 1 Cigar Mile, big afternoon of racing at the Big A on Saturday. Best of luck.